a session this afternoon with three great Sabio speakers. We've got Angela Clarkson, Phil Jordan, and Philip West. We'll be using this session to dig a little deeper into digital transformation and how to realise the potential of the tools you use or are hoping to use in each of these areas: the contact centre, AI and automation, and CRM. At Sabio, we believe if you do this effectively, you'll be able to realise your organisation's true CX potential. Now, hopefully, you've all got one of these cards. Okay, so we want to make this session a little bit fun and interactive. So throughout the presentations, you'll be asked questions. So you'll either have a purple tick for yes or a yellow cross for no. So just to practice, are you all looking forward to this afternoon's session? Oh, yeah, we did have 1 or 2 yellows, but fortunately they changed their mind pretty quickly. And then to maintain this interactive flavour, at the end of the session or at the end of the presentations, we're going to be taking a few questions. So if you want to have a think about anything you'd like to ask, please do. So at this point, I'd just like to hand over to Angela.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll reiterate what Melodie just said. I hope you had a good lunch. Let's start talking about contact centre. My name's Angela Clarkson. I'm the head of business consulting for Sabio, and I would like to walk you through my view on how you can extract as much potential as possible from the technology, the contact centre technology that you've procured and are thinking about procuring in the future. So, the 10th of September 1990, I'm going to reveal something to you now. You're probably racking your brains and thinking, why is that date significant? It probably isn't to everybody in this audience, but it is to me. It's the day I stepped foot in my first contact centre, or a call centre as they were known at the time. It was the Directory Assistance and Operator Services Contact Centre at Cheltenham, to be specific, and it was highly unsophisticated compared to today's contact centre environment. But it was important. We had 999 calls to deliver, but all we focused on at the time was how quickly and efficiently we could get that throughput through our organisation. And it was all about the efficient distribution of work within the contact centre, and the goal was to drive productivity. Handling time and service level were king. That's what people were talking about. And that persisted for an incredible amount of time. It wasn't until the early 2000s that people started to recognise the power of the employee, and that the people within the organisations are very, keeping your staff happy was all about increasing productivity. Happy people worked hard, delivered more productivity. And then the light bulb moment came on. It took way into the 2000s before they started to think about what the customer needed. And that's when we started thinking about quality, we started thinking about customer service, we started thinking about customer loyalty, and all of those good things. So we're now in a position where we're talking about customer loyalty. We're in a position where my colleague is upstairs at the moment talking about employee well-being. And it's taken that length of time for us to actually get to this point where we are managing, measuring all of those different elements in order to actually drive efficiency and effectiveness within our organisation and to keep our customers happy. So, all of those priorities you need to keep in your mind. So what does that mean from a technology perspective within your organisations? So let's roll forward a little. In the subsequent 33 years, did I really say that out loud? My word, that was bold. We've seen a significant development in the systems, tools, and applications designed to help us measure, manage, and improve the way we deliver that service. Intelligent contact distribution systems, resource and quality management tools, voice bots, natural language speech recognition, self-service applications, and many, many, many different contact channels, all aimed at enabling efficiency, effectiveness, and cost reduction for the business, and improved quality of service and choice for our customers. So we've got so much to think about. Do I understand what I need to deliver? Have we got the right tools? Are we using them effectively? Do they serve the needs of our business and our customers? And are we maximizing the value in the tools that we have? Many organizations have evolved and grown over time. From a technology perspective, the technology stack can comprise of a mix of legacy, or as I like to call them, cherished, customer data repositories, coupled with newer routing or contact management systems and a variety of support applications which may or may not be fully integrated. To be successful, an organization must have a coherent strategy for the management of their technology stack. And I'm here to talk about how we in Sabio believe you can go through a process to get you into that position. So, how do we know if we've got the right technology? In order to understand if you have the right technology, you need to be asking yourself a whole load of questions. Do you know what's happening in the market? Do you know what your competitors and your peer group are doing? What's happening from a contact center specific perspective, but also in your area of expertise? Do you know where you want to be from a service delivery perspective? Are you an organization that wants to be top of the pack? Do you want to deliver the gold standard? Or are you more comfortable at a mid-tier level or even lower? Not all organizations can or do aspire to be the very best. There have to be organizations that satisfy a market at all levels. So you need to decide where you, as an organization, wish to play. You need to have a clear understanding of what's suitable for your target demographic. So do you know who your customers are? Have you got the correct technology within your organization to identify who those customers are and work through the trends that are telling you what you need to be doing in those circumstances? What do your customers prefer? What do they need? What will they use? All questions you need to be asking yourself. What about your business objectives? Where is your business driving, both in the short and the medium term? What outcomes are you looking to achieve, and what are the levers that will help you get there? These need to be your priorities. And finally, you need to know what you already have. And I know my colleague Stuart mentioned it this morning, if you were upstairs listening to Stuart. You need to understand what your current technology stack can provide to you. Because in today's economic climate, organizations like yours will be looking to maximize on investment already made and squeezing the last bit of value from the technology you already have before you start looking to invest further. So let's start with our first quick question. Have you all got your cards ready? So, do you believe that your current technology stack will enable you to deliver your vision? Wow. Yeah. Fully understand. That is not, you are not unusual in that. But what we need to do is you need to go on a journey which is about understanding where you currently are in order to understand where you want to go and how you're going to get there. So, I'm now going to talk about what Sabio is seeing in the market. Okay? Working with customers from many different sectors, we're able to observe trends in the market. We're able to understand where customers currently sit in terms of their maturity from a customer experience perspective. And we're able to provide that kind of and that level of detail to our customers when they come to us to ask us for help with their technology transformations. But in the meantime, I've selected 3 very specific areas that I just want to talk through. In my role as in customer experience business consulting, I talk to many customers about what it is that they see as their priorities for the next 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. And I've started to pick on some key themes within our customer base around what they're trying to achieve and how they're trying to achieve it. So I've selected 3 specific areas where I've seen significant focus in the last 12 months, especially since the economic pain that was felt for many organisations during the period of COVID. So this morning, Stuart articulated well the state of the current economic climate. Inflation is up, cost of living is soaring, Brexit, COVID, war, natural disasters. There's a whole host of stuff out there at the moment that's happening that's had a direct impact on the propensity for consumers and indeed organisations to spend money. So the result is customers, ours and yours, are all looking at how they can do more with less or with what they have. So they're looking to cut costs, not simply maintain current levels of expenditure, but actually make costs where they can in order to reinvest that in areas that will help them see growth. The media is constantly telling us about how much today's savvy supermarket shopper is shopping around, and that is no different in the commercial world. Organisations are doing exactly the same. They might not necessarily be looking at the price of a pint of milk, but they're certainly looking at the price of everything and trying to establish what the value of that pound that they're spending is worth. So in the technology space, where should we be focusing? I've visited many organisations recently that have invested significantly in sophisticated contact centre solutions, but don't really understand how to use them effectively, efficiently, and to their maximum potential. And it's that area that I think, certainly a lot of organisations are now starting to look at in terms of how they can squeeze that value from their existing technology platforms. And then, once they've done that, once they fully understand how to do that, they can then start to look at how they augment that technology platform, but only at that point when they really understand what the power of the technology they purchased has got. So it's imperative, therefore, that before you start on any program of technology augmentation, you seek to establish what you've currently got. And I know it sounds simplistic, but you'd be very surprised at how many organizations don't absolutely know what the licenses they've procured or the technology they've had deployed can actually deliver for them. I'm talking so much I've forgotten to press my button, sorry. So let's go with our second question now. Do you feel that your organization is squeezing the maximum possible value out of your existing contact center solution? Again, unsurprising. A lot of what I've seen over the last 12 months has been exactly the same as what you're articulating there. And as I've said, to be able to answer this question, you need to have a thorough understanding of what you have, how you're using it currently, and what your business needs to deliver as a result. And from that, you'll be able to identify the new technologies that you want to bring on board. Right, so on to my second observation. Organizations are recognizing the value of the frictionless customer journey. The identification and removal of detractors from within your journey is imperative if you're looking to increase customer satisfaction and build loyalty. It's important to remember when building these frictionless journeys that you need to look at the seamless end-to-end design of the journey rather than just the technologies chosen to deliver it. So it's end to end. You need to look right at the beginning in terms of where customers are actually starting to get to know you as an organization, to the very end where you're actually asking them how they felt about their engagement with you. And it's not just about the removal of friction, the removal of those irritating little detractors that make the journey a poor experience. Sometimes the addition of a little positive friction can actually support delivery. And what I mean by positive friction is when you put specific activities within your journey that actually make a customer either stop and think or go and get some additional information. So an example could be if you have a requirement for certain bits of information as a customer goes through your identification and verification process, tell them right at the beginning, the moment they hit your organization. Don't wait until they get to the agent to tell them they need their account number or their PIN or their password. Tell them right up front. Now, that is friction because the customer will go, damn, I needed that piece of information. But it's right at the beginning. So actually, it creates a positive experience, not a negative one, which is what they would have had when they got to an agent or an application to find that they didn't have the information that they needed. So it's also important to actually think about things like that as you build those journeys for the customer. And finally, on this one, it's also important to recognize that sometimes friction will be inevitable, and it's about actually making that a more positive experience. So when you've got a detractor, start to look at how you can enhance that circumstance. So a good example of this is if a customer finds, gets to the point where they want to order from you, but find they can't get that product at that point, give them options. Provide them with alternatives that you have in stock that they potentially could purchase. Again, it takes away what is a potentially negative experience and starts to deliver a more positive experience. It may not necessarily be the product they want, ultimately, but at least you're giving them those options and you've thought about that customer's position. The final of my 3 observations is that we've found that organizations are being far more selective in choosing those technologies capable of supporting the delivery of their desired vision and the customer journeys that support it. This is where the technology choices within the contact center can really drive success. Let's look at the key stages within the contact center service delivery process. First, we'll start with Connect. Trigger is all about the marketing piece up front. It's not necessarily, you need to look at that when you're looking at a journey, but I'm looking at the specific activities that impact on the contact center themselves. So we start with Connect. If you understand early the reason for contact, it gives you options. It helps you to define your channel strategy and your digital strategy, provides you with choices about how you wish to manage that contact. Are you looking to deflect, automate, deliver to a self-service application, or route to an agent directly? The earlier you understand the call to action by the customer, the better able you are to respond appropriately. Recognize early ID and V. You need to know who the customer is if you want to use any automated platforms, any self-serve applications. You need to know who they are. Push the ID and V right to the front of your journey. The sooner you can identify that customer and the reason that they're calling, the sooner you can know what you want to do with them. Really important stage. So many organizations wait until they hit an agent today in order to actually ID and V a customer. By that point, the decision has already been taken about where and how that customer gets serviced. It's too late to actually make those important choices in terms of moving them through the process. Route. Define your routing strategy. Get the customer to the right resource, be that a self-serve application, intelligent messaging, a bot, or a human agent, but remember to provide that all-important extension to the human interface should they encounter issues and problems. Very important, that piece. But use your routing strategy to make sure you're getting the customer to the right place in order to deal with them effectively. Queue. Define your queuing strategy. How long is long enough? Question that I'm often asked. Customers in a queue, what are you going to do with them? You need to start understanding when enough is enough for a customer and that you start to offer them options again. It's about offering options. They may choose to stay in that queue. That's up to them. But if you've offered them options, alternative ways, queue back, messaging, go to automated platform, all of those different kinds of things, you've given them options. They feel more in control, and therefore they're less likely to be concerned or worried or angry when you actually finally do get to talk to them. And finally, we've got resolve. Make sure your resolution resource has every possible chance to get it right. First time. Provide knowledge, data, information about the customer history, and a skilled and available resource, be that human or digital. That way, you'll make sure that you're not getting repeat calls from customers who are irritated because they either didn't get the answer they needed or they got the wrong information. So lots to think about in terms of where and when you deploy technology. And hopefully, it's giving you some pause for thought around what areas you need to consider when thinking about building those customer journeys. The final point I wish to make is that the real value that can be delivered across the contact center from the technical estate. It's all about identifying where this lies and taking positive action to extract the value. We've already spoken about the extraction of value for the technology you already have and from the removal of negative friction from the customer journey. My colleague Phil will shortly be taking us through the potential for AI and automation. However, it would be remiss of me to ignore the opportunities available in the contact center for automation and self-serve applications to handle simple, transactional type activities. Really keen, whilst providing the opportunity for your skilled and precious resource to focus on high value and complex transactions. Finally, the increasing propensity for organizations to adopt a multi-channel model requires the introduction of a multi-channel approach to the optimization of the workforce. Employing strategies and practices which improve both employee and organizational efficiency will play a key part in reducing operational costs. Again, something that Sabio can work with you if you need some support. So I'll now leave you with this final thought. There are so many things to consider when looking to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of your contact center estate. No need for cards this time. I'm just going to leave you. I'd like you to consider the following question. Do you believe you currently have all the skills, capabilities necessary within your organization to understand and deliver the levels of service you wish to deliver? If you feel you need some support with any of the points raised in this presentation, please come and talk to me and my team in the booth just behind the screen. I will now hand over to my colleague Phil, who will talk us through the potential that AI and automation can provide. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Angela. So my name is Phil Jordan. I'm going to be talking to you today about the AI and automation potential, specifically focusing on conversational AI. I've recently moved here to Sabio after working with them to deliver a successful conversational AI program into HomeServe called Hannah, which was HomeServe's automated natural assistant. In fact, some of my colleagues, or ex-colleagues, are sitting in the front. Yeah, there they are. Give us a wave, guys. Go on. There you go. There they are. But I'll be talking to you today about some of the things we can do. But I'm going to start with a question, which is how many of you started thinking about implementing AI within your business operations already? That's it, great stuff. Everyone's thinking about it, that's good. Perfect. So if not, it's something that you really need to start thinking about. There's so much in the press about the power of it out there at the moment, its ability to influence and improve business operations. It's something actually that we're all interacting with on a daily basis. Whether you're doing a Google search or you're searching on Netflix, AI is now part of our lives and it's part of our routines. There's no avoiding it. I do understand the reasons why though, because actually when you're considering AI, it's hard to picture and assign a functional value to. It's really quite difficult to look at your operational challenges, but I can almost guarantee that there are significant use cases within each of your businesses that AI can drive value through. So in order to speak about AI, I first need to be considerate of what it actually does. Now this is a very simplistic view, but it's designed to make you think of the functionality over the technology. We're working to replace human processes with something artificial, so we need to be considerate of the attributes that humans have that we're trying to replace. So first is our physical attributes. So that's our ability to move, it refers to our strength, stamina and coordination. Now this is where sort of things like robotics take over, and robotics and mechanical automation have been around for decades, since the Industrial Revolution, and it's something which is used significantly within manufacturing heavy industry, but in recent years there's been an explosion of applications, and and it's actually playing a major part within a lot of the software we develop nowadays as well. So the next is our cognitive abilities. That's our ability to think, interpret outside information, problem solve and learn. Combined with the physical attributes, this is where robotics becomes artificial intelligence, and we have the ability to perform complex tasks now without the human being being involved. And finally, psychosocial. This is our ability to respond to things like emotion and feeling. This now starts to make up our consciousness. So this is the line where currently the human will always be required in the contact center. We don't have the ability to replace this kind of functionality. But as long as we move into these kind of approaches, we're cognizant of the kind of environment or the kind of use cases that we want to put in place, those repetitive transactional use cases, we'll gain success out of utilizing these things. So what kind of different AI and automation processes are out there in the market? Firstly, RPA, robotic process automation. Commonly used within administrative environments, within a contact center environment, is where you've got simple backlog items that require maybe some slight data entry or moving from one process to another. But that can also be overlaid with intelligent RPA, so where you can take in factors such as vulnerability, customer value, or things like fraud risk into account to move them from one queue to another. The next, conversational AI, one thing that probably everyone here is talking about. This is a major influencer within the contact center space. I'll be talking predominantly about this today, but the way it's being used to deliver customer-facing conversations and replace those customer-facing conversations does not just require a technological focus. It requires a human focus as well, because the nuances of human conversation are in its structure and its patterns, and unlocking the value comes from the ability to structure questions in a way that draws people into the output that you're trying to target. And so this is a bit of an art form, and luckily one that Sabio do provide in the form of Klaus's team and his UX experts and consultants over there, so he'll be willing to talk to you about that kind of stuff. Next, machine learning. So this is where something that has the potential to add significant amounts of benefit to businesses, have the ability to process incredible amounts of data in fractions of a second in order to improve the outcome of a transaction. The algorithms do the work, and the business will reap the benefit in the background. So traditionally, in my background of business improvement, you work in two places, which is your known unknowns, your known knowns and your known unknowns. What machine learning has the ability to do is find correlations in places where you never thought of looking. So to dig into those unknown unknowns. It's there to improve the quality or the outcome of a transaction you're trying to complete. And finally, augmented reality, the ability to overlay a digital front end onto a real-world environment so you can use it to problem solve. The use cases for these are very specific, and if you've got them in enough abundance, then it's a technology you can definitely use. So we're going to talk about what we like to call the virtual contact center here at Sabio, and we're going to talk about how we build that with conversational AI. So the majority of us sit in the room, we know how the contact center works today. We tend to have our contact center leadership, things like operational planning and real-time, scripting, quality, and of course, the agents and agent management. But when we decided to start thinking about conversational AI, we're actively making a decision that we're wanting to replace our customer conversations with a machine. So everything we pay attention to, such as operational efficiency, quality, compliance, and customer satisfaction need to be built into this environment. This means that you need to start thinking about conversational AI as an extension of your operation. The team will need to include skills such as business analysis, telephony routing, your UX and conversational design and insights, and developers and middleware developers and so on, all being led by a business stakeholder that knows how to drive the value utilising the technology. So where traditional focus have been focused on things like customer satisfaction and people, the virtual contact center will be structured, focused on technology and customer experience. If you can build a team of technology experts around that centralized business goal, you can drive significant amounts of values within your operations. This is not a project team though, this is something that will require continuous development and attention. So I'm going to move into another question now, which is, how many of you feel like you have the correct skills and resources within your organization or operation to support conversational AI today? That's it. Knowing where your gaps are today is where you start, so it's a good start to go with it. It's something we can talk about over at the consultancy booth if you'd like to discuss it further. So next I'm going to talk about the value. So where can the value of conversational AI come from? What kind of use cases are we talking about? When delivering any innovative technology, we're typically trying to deliver three things. So there's operational workload reduction, there's revenue generation, or we're trying to improve our customer experience. When it comes to conversational AI, these are at a higher level of where you can drive value. The first one, obviously, automation and deflection. utilising the technology to remove completely a customer interaction from the contact centre. The tech can be developed to have a full conversation with a customer, or alternatively utilise data to deflect a conversation by providing the next best action to the customer. The purpose of this is to provide a customer with a solution to the query anytime, anywhere, and in the channel of their choice. Next, agent augmentation. So conversational AI, it's a great data collection tool. As you pass the customer through the process of doing things like collecting the reason for the call, the IDMV, and pulling data from the CRM, it's very important you don't waste any of that information. Creating a seamless relationship between the customer as it moves from the virtual to the physical agent will produce a more efficient and personalised interaction, which can drive significant value again. Next, insight. You're now turning conversations into structured data, which when organised correctly can provide great insight into the reasons for call by time of day, day of the week, and so on. But also you can dig into the operational metrics underneath it to try and understand the patterns that occur within your business. Not just that, you get to understand the way that customers describe their calls, and this can be fed back for things like marketing materials or provide digital development insights as well. Taming that data is half the challenge. And finally, precision routing. We now know more about our customers and the reasons why they're calling. How do we start routing them to the right agent first time and starting to drive uplifts in things like operational efficiency and maybe revenue benefits in a sales environment? So I'm going to talk about measuring this new operational performance we have. Obviously, we've now created a virtual operation. So you're using these applications now to replace all or part of a human interaction. And for that to be successful, it needs to be easy, or as easy, if not easier, than when they've spoken to one of the trained representatives. I think it's important to understand that you'll not get this right first time. It's a process of continuous measurement and improvement. The advantage of having the virtual contact center over the physical one, though, is that your interaction data, it's structured and each journey is repeatable. So understanding your engineering of the bot and collecting data at the correct points in the journey and turning that data into insight, which you can improve upon, is how you create success through the marginal gains by challenging those bottlenecks within the contact funnel. It's not always about the quantity of automation processes you have in place, but actually the quality of them, which is important. Within the process, there are key insights and process details of which you can actually pull out to start to have a look at how we can create a smoother, more efficient contact process. And it's something this actually we did at HomeServe with Hannah. We found that actually we had the ability to completely complete a booking within the conversational AI structure within 3 minutes. And this was compared to around 7 to 10 minutes within the contact center. We actually fed this information back and we constructed the new agent conversation in a different manner, and we managed to gain AHT savings from what we had learned with the way the customers were interacting with the bot overall. So next I'm going to talk about the methodology and approach, because this is not a normal tech implementation. This is something, as I said, it becomes part of your operation. It's something you need to give a lot of attention to. So I've got an iceberg. I think it's fair to say that there are many conversational AI suppliers out there and many technologies which support it, but these are just tools. And like any tool, if you don't know how to use it, it won't add you any benefit. Looking at conversational design, language is very complicated and varied, so providing customers with direction, asking clear and concise questions, and allowing time to provide the correct information back is essential to creating a successful experience. Then looking at your delivery methods, so your methodology, and ensuring that you're targeting the correct journeys and opening up creative forums for process design, reinventing and redesigning those processes and treating them in a different manner can be the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful deployment as well. The process of building this technology is one of targeted experimentation, so remaining open and to changing your perspective in the presence of new data is really important. And this moves me on to my next and probably most important task, which is problem solving. Measure effectively, root cause your dropout, and remain open to problems. They're not there to be frowned upon, hidden, or ignored. They're opportunities to get to know your customer and what drives a successful outcome within your automation journeys. It's really, really important to stay focused. As you'll be inundated, when you turn on conversational AI for the first time, you overlay it onto your phone lines, you'll be inundated with information. My background is scientific, so I always like to start with a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is defined as a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. Or in a very simplified form, we know what value we need to deliver, we just need to go and prove it, essentially. So we write a hypothesis with using conversational AI, we will be able to. And then we build the rest of that sentence focusing on product delivery, so your solution will scale with your business focusing on creating data and insights that proves or disproves that hypothesis, and finally, focus on the technology, focus if the technology has the capability to deliver against your overall business strategy. This way, you're able to cut through the noise and really target the journeys that are going to drive value to you and your business. So next, you've decided what you want to go after, and you need to prove the value to the operation. Now, the process of initiation will vary from business to business, but at a high level, it goes like this. You identify your need. What are you trying to strategically accomplish as a business? Are you looking to reduce your operating costs, increase your revenue, improve your customer experience, or is it all three of those things? Knowing this up front is how you define your hypothesis discussed and make sure you stay focused. Next, you build your strategy. What are we going to target? What does it look like today? What does it look like once we've implemented? This leads me on to the next and possibly hardest phase, which is convincing people with money and strategic ownership that this is a good idea. It's exceptionally hard if you've never lived and breathed this technology, because you've got no basis by which to make your assumptions. So don't be afraid to call upon consultants who have had this experience to help you drive that value and help you build that business case. Once you've had the sign-off, actually, building a team of dedicated, intelligent, driven operational professionals is actually the easy part. It's really fun. It's a really innovative space, and the journey, you learn a lot about your customers and your business as you go through this journey. So there's plenty to learn. I see Bav and Liam nodding in the background. That's it. So next, I'm going to go on the final section, and this is a bit of a what did we learn, and this is a bit of a basis of my own past experience. I'm sure, again, Bav will nod at these because we had a headache for every single one of them, so it's good. But these are just the few things we learned along the way and are potentially things you can use if you're embarking upon your AI journey. Firstly, where appropriate, use open questions. This gives you great insight into the specific task your customer wants to complete, but not only that, how they phrase those tasks as well. Next, make your processes as passive as possible. If you can get the information yourself, do it yourself. If you don't have to ask a question, don't ask it. Also, when designing the processes in an automation fashion, take the opportunity to challenge and simplify them as if you're building every single business process from scratch. Be cognizant of your system limitations. Latency and middleware systems will also manifest itself in your bots. And unfortunately, dealing with voice automation, you can't make a conversation about the weather in this environment when the screen buffers. And also a 5-second pause does feel like a lifetime when you're having a customer conversation. Next, measure the performance of the customer and the system journey. As we've already discussed, measurement in the right parts of the journey is essential to success, but you also don't want your automation journeys to be a black box of which you have no visibility over. Finally, dropout doesn't have to be a bad thing or a lost opportunity. We've collected a wealth of data and insights during those interactions, so don't waste it if the next step is to continue that conversation with an agent. Find a way of structuring that data into insights so the agent can use it to take control of the conversation. Create effective guardrails. The business will want to make sure it's treating its customers correctly. So when things go wrong, when a customer is struggling or when a system that supports the application is down, make sure the customer can always get the help they need. And finally, the first design will not be the last design. You'll iterate and improve as you learn more about how your customers interact with the bots. You'll also learn about what external factors, things like business acquisitions, calendar availability, and seasonal peaks and troughs can influence things like reasons for call and your automation success rates. In summary, you need to be willing to explore and experiment and fail fast when you take on conversational AI. And setting that expectation internally is absolutely essential. So you can flip the narrative on its head, though, and be in a position where you're telling the business about something they didn't already know. This can be exciting for both contact center and tech leadership, and it creates great forums and connectivity between those two environments. So I'm going to end with a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, which is learn from the mistakes of others because you don't have time to make them all yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for advice and guidance with this technology. Conversational AI is not a plug-and-play system. It can be used to deliver incredible amounts of operational value within contact centers, but like any conversation, only when it's been delivered correctly. Having robust methodology, structured approach to delivery is essential, but also including people in the build process that have done this before to help you design the process in an optimal way and fix problems when they occur fast. It's really important to making sure you gain success in this space. I hope that was useful. I hope it's given you some ideas of how you can utilize conversational AI within your operations yourself. But I'm going to hand over to Philip from our Make Positive business to talk to you about CRM.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philip West. I'm a delivery director at makepositive. And makepositive are the third circle on the Venn diagram. We are a Salesforce or a CRM consultancy. So started about 20 years ago, but since 2009 have been a pure play Salesforce consultancy. What I'm going to hopefully talk about is how CRM, and partially kind of, I suppose, within the contact center, is a little bit more, hopefully, than how it works with the other parts of it is a little bit more than basic CTI and screen pops. I'm going to do that initially by going through a little bit about kind of what is CRM, and I'm going to use some of the evolution of Salesforce as some of the background for that. So Salesforce was formed in 1999, but in 2000 in February, they kind of brought out their first product. So it was called Salesforce. We'd now think of it as Sales Cloud. So it's accounts, contacts, leads, and opportunities. How do we manage that first part of the sales process? And as a quick show of hands, or cards rather, and you can show either side of it because it doesn't matter from this point of view, how many of you within your organization have a sales-related CRM? Okay, good, thank you. So case management was added, but actually then became a kind of a fully fledged product in 2009 when they launched Service Cloud. And Service Cloud is probably, but then it's kind of far more contact center related, how cases are managed, but how kind of a case when it's created then, often if it needs to be supported by different parts of the organization, need to bring the product teams in, need to bring other people in to resolve an issue. And service is now kind of being expanded into a lot of things like kind of field service and et cetera as well, so people going out to fix issues. So think about kind of someone going out to fix your car screen, windscreen if it's cracked and et cetera. Again, those sort of things where you can use a service to fix a case, which means going out and actually solving it on the road with someone. Probably slightly more, but in this case, how many people in their organization, again, have a service-related part of their CRM? Okay, thank you. I'm not going to do it for everything else because you can see there's a whole load of different points going forward. Marketing Cloud then, so in 2013, they bought a company called Exact Target, but there was, again, this is about campaign management and how do you manage that lead nurturing all the way through to so that it can, there's a journey to take someone on to warm that lead up so that it then can start to become an opportunity and then hopefully onto a sale. Experience Cloud, or as it was originally kind of created as communities, is the ability then to allow people to authenticate and to do self-service. But also potentially to create an area where they can talk to each other. As again, customers can help each other and solve each other's problems for them, or talk to each other and provide advice and support. And there's a lot of use cases for this in sort of the not-for-profit sector as well. Commerce Cloud, so e-commerce, selling online, essentially. And then there's a plethora of things that have been added in the last few years, and I haven't added them all on the slide because they just get kind of too busy. But the aim is things like CPQ industries is where they've now started to create specific solutions for different types of industries. So for media, for telco, et cetera, different things in there. I haven't put on order management on there, or Slack, which was probably one of their biggest, most recent purchase. But probably the kind of the key thing here is why is there so much? Salesforce has a huge offering. It's got the broadest and widest offering within the CRM world, but it's normally around custom-related activity and then trying to get as much of that data in about your customers so you can then start to learn from it, so you can then either decrease costs or, more importantly, increase the lifetime value of that customer. And that's really all of the kind of the bits and pieces add up to doing those sort of things. So what I'm just going to do is kind of talk through how a CRM can be used. I'm just going to use some examples of different projects that I've been involved in about the last kind of 12, 14 months, just to kind of give different ideas. So we've talked about the breadth of it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the flexibility of the system. So kind of one example is with property management. And we've used it for residential property management. So if the company's going to take a new development on, could be 3 or 4 different apartment blocks, so they're going to manage it. So they'll think of those as an asset, but within the asset there'll be other assets like a lift, a kid's playground, whatever it might be, all of those that then need to be serviced and looked after. People need to come in and fix them. And the tenants and the owners need to know about the progress and how they're being looked after, but also you'll have new tenants come into properties and how they're managed and et cetera. So a kind of not a standard sales, not a standard service, but a kind of a very different kind of proposition around there. Again, with the retail customer, much more related to this piece, but this is where starting to think again, I think Stu mentioned it this morning about thinking of telephony as a digital channel and voice as a digital channel. So Service Cloud Voice uses the Amazon, it can be linked with Amazon Connect, so to use the Amazon Alexa, or in fact the Lex bot, to start kind of transcribing calls, and again, taking from that keywords to start suggesting next best actions. And the same thing also then with kind of chatbot and et cetera. So two kind of areas very, very close to this. With telcos, looking at the order management and then the reorder management, but actually, can they provide a service in that particular area based on postcodes? And so try and kind of lead people through a journey of, can we offer the service? What services can we offer that journey? And then to take them through the kind of the lifetime management, and hopefully onto renewals and et cetera. Professional services. This is, again, a kind of a slightly odd one of how they onboard people either to be accountancy customers, or for people who are contracting but don't want to set up their own company to be umbrella employees. But then they need to submit things like time and expenses, know when they're going to get paid, and have all of that kind of management of that done. So again, I'm going to say this is, again, more of an experience cloud and community and et cetera experience within that. Within media, so this is selling physical magazines and digital entitlements into the magazines, so you can see all the digital content online. But also, interestingly, offering different services within that. So legal support and advice, tech support, and therefore kind of also how we create appointments to make sure that you're getting to see the right type of lawyer as they go through that journey and triaging and saying, actually, what are your actual needs? Okay, this is the right person to see and to book an appointment at the right sort of time for them. Within travel, transport, and hospitality, Lucy was talking on the stage this morning. So when a property changes over, they need to get people in to come in and clean the property before, and again, that can be the owner, it can be that they get people in to do that, and again, how the pools are kept from the technician's point of view, or if something needs fixing. So a lot of field service involved in there. I think probably the interesting thing about this program and kind of working with Aways is that they're planning a program of work, and they're doing it and staging it, and we're trying to work out what you can deliver without tripping over the next project, but then also not waiting till the next thing's finished, for one thing's finished before the next thing's to start. So kind of really thinking about the program management in it. Consumer goods, all the point from kind of selling to going out and fixing things, again, in people's houses, and often the selling actually needs to be done in the client's house. Does this water filter fit under this sink? And what sort of one can you use? And therefore kind of going through some of that process. So a field sale as well as part of that. Membership onboarding, what music rights. If I'm trying to get paid for my media rights, there's going through a kind of a point of creating yourself known and going through, again, a kind of know your customer, et cetera process as part of that. And an interesting one from another one from travel, transport, and hospitality is booking a holiday, but more around kind of bespoke holidays here, and trying to go from being a trip-centric company to a customer-centric country. So thinking about how you increase the lifetime value of the client, how you do more repeat knowledge about them, because there's, again, a really long time between booking a trip often and going on it, and then the piece after it. And actually, how do you maintain an engagement with them on a very high-value trip, as some of these ones are with this company, and then understand actually what have they got on their bucket list, what they want to do next, and start kind of warming them up about those, about future trips and et cetera as well. So think about that as an end-to-end sales process. So that kind of says a little bit about the flexibility of the system. I would say one of the great things about Salesforce is its flexibility. One of the big challenges with Salesforce is its flexibility. And so kind of working out what you should do, and to a degree, what you shouldn't do, is equally kind of important as we go through projects. And the answer to what should you do on Salesforce? is a true consultant's answer of, it depends. And it depends on kind of a plethora of factors. What I will say is in most cases, if it's something to do with the customer, you want to capture customer data, customer 360 type of data, that's anything that's to do with that, that's the natural home, natural place for it. If you want to be able to measure all of your commercial revenue, so if I'm thinking about the sales side of cycles, but also kind of repeat sales and et cetera, then you want all of that data at some point to come in there. You've got a vision of your pipeline that way, and it's not a complete view if you haven't got all of it in there. But actually, in terms of everything else, it really kind of depends on what is important to you as a company. Where are you going to get the return on investment? And working that out and going through that kind of process, developing the business cases, is the key part. There is no one size fits all. There is no answer. And it very much depends on, I've put there kind of, what's your company's secret sauce? What's individual to your company that makes it special, that helps you sell and grow and do the best that you can do in the marketplace? And that's where we've kind of got to work out. Because the great thing about Salesforce is it's got a wonderful workflow engine. It's got great for knowledge management. It's great for a number of things. But there's also things that have a natural other home. If you've got an ERP, if you've got this or the other, there are things that's working out what you should and shouldn't do on Salesforce, and it won't be the same answer for everyone. When we tend to work with clients, there tend to be two start points. One of them, if you've got it in as an existing system, it's often to come in and do a health check. Are you making the most out of the solution? Are you capturing all of the right data? Are you mining that data correctly? Are you then thinking about kind of the next follow-on actions and how can you support your customers, give them the best experience they can do with what you're doing already, and how can you enhance it? Or, starting from the beginning, what is it that you really want to do? And that's where I'll kind of come back to kind of what we tend to do from a discovery. And I think about it as kind of vision to value. So the first thing that we want to do is to understand the company. Where are they? What are they doing? What do they want to be? What are the longer term objectives? But also kind of then what are the near and the shorter term ones? But then we've got to understand the organization. What are your existing processes? What's your existing technology landscape? What are your pain points? What are the things that are going on that are impacting you from outside, whether they're changes in the government, environmental laws, whatever it might be? And then the thing that we can then bring is an example of kind of what is the art of the possible. We've kind of shown a plethora of kind of different ways of using Salesforce. What are best practices we've seen, and what can we do in other industries that could be helpful in your industry to show that we're not just kind of living in our own silos, and we're looking at kind of what are those best external practices. From that, we're then going to go, right, okay, let's get a little bit deeper. What are your requirements? And then start to understand kind of what's the as is and what's the main gap into the to be's. Again, at this stage in the discovery, it's going to be at a fairly high level, but calling out kind of the main ones in there. And then understanding trying to get to an understanding of the priorities, what's going to deliver the most value, whether it's in a saving or growth as the two main areas, or just improving the customer experience. And then thinking about sequencing of events. Where are the quick wins? Where are the things that have dependencies on something else happen? So it's going to have to naturally happen later down the line. What pace can you work as an organization? How much change can you receive and work and accept without kind of breaking things? With the output of then kind of hopefully creating a program plan. What are we doing now? What's the plan for the next phase? Have we got the right governance and team and et cetera in place in terms of that planning piece? Developing the business case, thinking about those benefits realization, when they're going to come, how therefore the program is going to be funded. Do we need to get somebody to pay for what we're going to do in the later phases? And then working out the delivery approach. We've got, as makepositive, defined kind of methodology and an approach for doing it, but we flex it because it's got to work for a different organization. So it's always going to be, this is our framework for doing things. How do we make it work with you? This hopefully kind of all makes sense. We want more of one and less of the other. So as much as possible, use out-of-the-box technology. Let's do that and then do things that can be done point and click and as declarative configuration, et cetera, as put there. Let's have more of things on that side. If you can't do it with that, we'd normally go to use a third-party app exchange, something else that is designed to do that process, and use that. And then the last thing is use custom code. But as I've kind of said and used from those examples earlier, there's no way some of those different projects didn't get built without something custom. So it's where is it worthwhile investing? Where's your company's secret? What are the USPs that it's worthwhile investing, doing something different in? Talking about all of that, and we've talked about digital transformation a lot today, or transformation. What's important? It's people and process. They are the two most important things within it. You know, and when I think about a project, I don't think about success as being arriving on time and on budget. Those, you kind of hope that those are important pre-factors. But actually, it's the what's happening in the 6 months after go live. Have we got good user adoption? Are people coming up? Is the benefits case being hit? So all the things that we said that we wanted to deliver, are they actually happening? And they don't happen in the first 2 weeks after go live. It takes a little time to actually start embedding those changes and making sure they're happening. So those, to me, are the absolute keys. And what we want to do is have a look at all of the different customers, different touch points with the organization, work out how we can make those as good and smooth and frictionless as possible, but how also can we make it as intuitive as possible for the user as well, and look at both, so CX and UX and et cetera, as we go through that. And then thinking of technology as the enabler. It's not why we're doing the project, it is the enabler of the business results that we're trying to have. So kind of finally from me then, it's just a kind of a few things about how you can be successful, pitfalls to avoid, whatever. The first one for me is the right project sponsor. And it's making sure we've got a person in place who can break down barriers, because we're not going to, when you get a consultancy in, when you're trying to drive change, you're going to need to work at pace. And in order to do that, we're going to need to make decisions as we go through a project. They're not all going to happen in a nice little box up at the front. Make sure you've got the right internal team. And if that means you've got to recruit some people before you start the project, that's the right thing to do. It's wrong. Starting a project before you're ready is going to mean that you're going to trip up and going to spend money more than you need to later on. But also about setting the right team culture. Open and honest communication, providing the autonomy to teams to make decisions to the threshold that they're allowed to do it. And then trying to make, I'm going to say, partners become involved and make sure that they understand that culture and they will live and help drive that culture, et cetera, as well. Phil kind of mentioned it as well, that we need to have the right design governance. You're not going to make all the right, so you want to make as many decisions at the front as possible. Time spent in design will save an awful lot of time in build, but changes will be made. So having a design authority and a mechanism for making sure you're controlling that as you go through the project. As a project program manager, I can't say anything other than you've clearly just got to do a bit of planning. But I mentioned it on the previous slide, and I think it's been mentioned a lot today. Customer experience, user experience. If we get those things right, that's how we're going to deliver the longer lifetime value, the repeat sales, et cetera, that we're after. Tracking benefits post-go live. We've got to demonstrate that we've been successful at the end of it. And don't leave the difficult bits until too late in the project. You want to be addressing and planning for those as early as possible, and kind of particularly the data migration. It has to be done late in terms of the final bit, but if you don't plan it early enough, you can get to the point of being ready to go live and then held up. And the amount of projects I've seen that happen on it's just so frustrating and annoying. And then change in stakeholder management. If we're going to drive change and make people's jobs different, then we've got to make sure that we bring them along on the journey and they understand it. And even people that have been using green screens forever and a day, they know how to do it. They know that they don't even need to look, and they can just click, 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 and that takes them through to the next place, and et cetera. And they know how to use an existing system. Even if the next one is easier to use, easier to train new people on, et cetera. Your existing people who've been using that system for 10 years are brilliant at it. That's the kind of, I suppose, the end of what I want to say. Other than what we're trying to do with all of these things is say there are, whether it's the AI, the contact center, or the CRM side of things, they overlap, and it's trying to work out how we make the best use of the different ones. And before we go on, I'll hand over to Melodie to take any questions and et cetera.
Great. Thanks, Philip. Well, thanks very much, Philip, and actually thank you to all of you. We've got a few minutes left to take some questions. So does anybody have some questions? We've got a microphone here, so come on, hands up, anyone? Come on, you must have some. I've got one or two that I want to ask, but I just want to let you get in first. Any questions? Okay, well, I'll take one then. So, so Phil, something that came up over lunch was how can you explain how you overcome regulatory challenges when implementing conversational AI?
Yeah, sure. So I think you've got to treat this interaction, like I said, this is an extension of your operation. What you're doing is you're replacing that agent interaction. So where that agent is sitting in a seat and they are taking information in and they're plugging it back into a CRM, for example, and they're taking information out of a CRM and then delivering it back to the customer, you're essentially just replacing that human being with this bot. So when we strip down our processes, when we're delivering conversational AI processes, we essentially do that in collaboration with the rest of the business. Our risk owners and our compliance teams are involved from start to finish in the design of those. They inspect and sign them off before we deliver anything into a customer-facing environment, and we make sure that we take things into account, things like data protection and so on, as we start to pass information to and from systems. But essentially, we treat it like the agent process. We treat it like we're building a script for an agent process. We are just doing it in a more business-led and tech-enabled environment.
Okay, thanks. And we've obviously spoken this afternoon about the 3 key tool areas. So Angela, a question for you. So when you're developing an omni-channel and digital strategy for an organisation, how would you decide which of the platforms should deliver and manage and support the digital channels?
Right, okay. As Philip said earlier on, I'm going to use the typical consultancy response to that one, which is, it depends. Every organisation is different, and therefore we would look at a challenge like that through the lens of the organisation itself. So we'd start to look at what they currently do in terms of managing the interactions within the existing organisation. We'd look at what technology they have. So if they already have the CRM, if they already have the contact centre platform, we'd start to look at what elements are managed within those organisations, within those different systems as they were. We'd also look at what licenses they have, what investment have they already made in both of those platforms, and therefore what does that platform already give them in terms of solutions to some of their challenges. So it is very much an individual piece of work. It needs planning, absolutely, and it needs a good, thorough understanding of the organisation, but also a thorough understanding of those systems and what their capabilities are. Philip, would you agree with those sentiments, or could you add anything?
I suppose just thinking through, again, the lens of the organisation, what other skill sets have you got internally? If you've got a greater skill set internal around one of the 2 systems, that's also probably going to be the one that you're going to, and more licensing spend that you've been doing on that, then you're probably going to do on there. The answer is that it is a complex landscape. They are overlapping technologies, and one of the bits to kind of also understand is what is the roadmap of those different products, et cetera, as well. You're going to base your decision on what it does now, but also where are they obviously investing to going forward. So if the roadmap aligns with where you've got your investment and where you've got the skill sets, then it kind of makes the choice quite obvious. But that's one of the things I'd say we'd probably want to kind of come in jointly and advise so that you're making the best use of your existing. And so what's the best way of getting your ROI is the answer.
Okay.
Question up front.
Oh, I think we've got a question at the front here.
Yeah, I wanted, could you describe a little more of the... Wait, I've got a Fine. You describe a little more the feedback loop in terms of, over time, learning from the customer experience, getting their feedback, and then, and just kind of building that in. So that cycle and how that works.
So in terms of how do we create a feedback loop within an automated environment?
Yes.
Yeah, so actually we treated it in a very similar way, again, to the way the agent experience works. Within the automated journeys that we put within HomeServe, we actually measured a survey in exactly the same way. So once a customer had gone through that process of delivering a fully automated outcome, we'd survey them in the same way as if they had spoken to an agent. We did the same in our digital channel as well. So when a customer fulfilled a transaction in a digital way, we sent a survey out, which meant that actually we could split our customer surveying tools by channel to understand actually which channel was producing the less effort on behalf of those customers. Also, I suppose you get the opportunity. Actually, we were asking our customers what they thought of the experience once we had completed the transaction. And within the conversational AI bot, we capture all the information in an application which can sit within console. And what that does is we essentially get to read all the verbatim on a daily basis. Every single claim that we raised within a home serve environment, we could actually read after we asked the question, can you please tell us in a few words what you thought about that? We could see exactly what the customer said. And you know, there's a varying level of response of some people said it was okay, but I prefer to speak to a human. And some of them were saying, yep, it's fine, quick, easy, really enjoyed that. And it really comes down to the sort of quantitative data that you can pull out of the application, but then you've got to dig deeper to get the qualitative information out of it as well.
Okay, thanks very much. We've got a question over here.
Got a question for Philip. You spoke about discovery earlier on, the importance of discovery. My question really is, if my team have done a thorough discovery of what we actually want, we've got a BA in-house, if we've done the requirement gathering and put together a detailed list of what we actually want, is there still a value for discovery?
I'd say yes, and because there's a point about kind of saying once you've worked out yes what you want to do and you've got a good internal skill set, it's actually a lot easier for us to work with a team that's got that right internal skill set. It's going to short circuit and reduce the amount of time, but there are a lot of things around kind of, again, it's unusual to find in a client that they've got two things. One, the breadth of experience that you're going to have from a consultancy, so to bring some of those best practices in, but also the size of team to deliver. You tend to have a team that's based on delivering BAU and a certain amount of small changes. The larger the change is, the more likely you're going to need to have additional resources. And those resources coming in need to understand why they're doing the project, not just what they're going to do. Because if they understand the why, they're then going to be in a much better position to kind of help guide and make sure that you do the right things, and hopefully to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. So.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I think we've got another question at the back.
Hi, just a quick one. I'm working on a virtual assistant and currently is handling around 70% of the conversations, the bot actually, 30% are handled by the agents. So do you see now with ChatGPT and now the new product from Google with this transformer-based NLUs, do you see potentially bots taking all the conversations and replacing completely humans? That's first one. And the second one, after this one, also there are some other companies that are working and investing a lot in virtual assistants in the States, Lemonade or even Bank of America. Do you see also virtual assistant replacing mobile apps and websites in the future, in the near future?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, actually. I think when it comes to, I'll answer the first one first. So in terms of, do I see bots entirely replacing human beings? I think it comes down to probably what I spoke about in the first section of the conversation, which is taking those human attributes, those psychosocial attributes where there's incredible amounts of emotion or really complex situations involved. I think the conversational bots, they're evolving at a massive rate, an incredible rate as it starts to move forward. I think what the future holds for them is complicated. I think a lot of the information, like let's say ChatGPT, for example, a lot of the information that comes down to it, is it something you'd put into a regulated environment at this point in time? Probably not. You'd have to make sure that there's a hell of a lot of quality assurance done on the bots and the responses it was giving before you felt comfortable putting it in front of customer bases. In terms of its replacement of things like digital and app development and so on, again, an interesting question, because I actually own both departments when I worked in HomeServe. I owned the digital self-service department and I owned the conversational AI aspects as well. And the reason why we got into conversational AI aspects is because we spent years trying to drive our customer base towards a digital environment. But obviously, when 90 to 95% of our contact was still coming in through the voice channel, you go where the development is taking you. So we decided to introduce conversational AI to the voice channel purely because that's where our customers were choosing to contact us. I think now this technology is available, it's giving you more options, but I think if you can, I suppose, remain agile in the way that your customers decide to contact you, if we start to see a movement, a generational divide as certain new demographics and new markets start to come through that process, we might see more customers going digital first at that point, in which case start to challenge where your investment needs to lie at that space.